Okay, what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you guys how to make some claws for either costuming or fursuiting or Halloween or something out of Sculpey polymer clay. These claws are really strong, take a lot of abuse, so pretty tough. The things you'll need for this video is you'll need 2 to 3 bricks of Sculpey in whatever color you want, a piece of clean paper or a plastic plate or something, and you'll also need a cookie sheet, some tin foil, and a oven that is capable of reaching 275 degrees. Also, some optional things that you may want to use, which I use and I suggest using, are if you have access to a freezer, that helps a lot, and I'll explain that later in the video. Also, another thing is to get a bottle of Podge. You can get this at any craft store, or even probably some, I think Walmart has it, and some sandpaper in different grits, getting finer, from about 320 grit to about 1000 grit. Okay, first thing you want to do is you want to go ahead, take some of the Sculpey and break it off the block from the pack. Just go ahead and start working it in your hands. This will heat up the Sculpey and make it easier to work with and more pliable. Once you've worked it for a few minutes, it should look pretty much like this. Pretty flexible, pretty malleable. Then what you'll want to do from that point is go ahead, break off a little piece of Sculpey, and go ahead and start forming your claw. The way I make them is I form basically a little triangle like this, and then you just start rounding it off and kind of giving a little curve to it. Also, on my claws, I kind of flare the base out a little bit so they're easy to attach to gloves. Now, if you are going to glue these onto a glove, what you'll want to do is you'll want to take your fingernail or a fork or spoon or something and make little ridges on the inside of the claw here. This will help the glue adhere better to the claw so it doesn't fall off. But anyway, after you have the basic shape of your claw, what I suggest doing is popping it into the freezer for about a minute or two. What this will do is this will help, it will harden the claw back up, but not fully harden it. So it will be kind of like what the Sculpey was like when you first took it out of the pack before you started kneading it. So, and also that will help you get out some of the fingerprint marks and really work on the finer details of the claw. Okay, here's the claw. It has been in the freezer for about 2 minutes or so. And as you can see, it's pretty hard, but you can still work with it. What I do at this point is I just go through and start smoothing out all the fingerprint marks and the lines in it to make it look better. Once you're happy with how the claw looks, you can have 2 options at this point pretty much. You can either go ahead and bake these or put them back in the freezer for a second. I like to put them back in the freezer till I bake them so they don't droop or change their shape any. Okay, at this point in the process, you'll want to go ahead and preheat your oven to whatever temperature the pack of Sculpey tells you to. Here on my pack it says bake at 275 degrees Fahrenheit for 15 minutes for every 1/4 inch of thickness. So thickness is an easy thing to find out. Just take one of your claws, take a measuring tape, and measure the thinnest part and the thickest part of your claw. My thinnest part is probably about 1/4 inch, and the thicker part is about 1/2 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake my claws for about 20 minutes at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Your oven is preheating. You'll want to go ahead, take you a piece of tin foil, and sit down your cookie sheet here. So you have enough room to put all your claws in at once. Also, what I like to do, because you don't want the Sculpey to get direct heat from the heating elements in your oven. So what I do is I take another bigger piece of tin foil and attach it to the bottom piece here and make a little tent for the claws to go in. And what this will do is you'll put your claws inside and they will bake like normal, but they won't get direct heat from the element, so it won't burn them. So at this point, you're ready to load your claws into your little tent here and bake them for however long you need them. Okay, I just took the finished claws, the finished baked claws out of the oven here, and they are still really hot. At this point, you do not want to pick them up or touch them because they are still soft at this point. They will not become fully hardened until you let them cool off for about half an hour to 45 minutes. So just basically leave them alone for 45 minutes or so, let them cool off. Okay, here's one of the optional steps that I told you about earlier. It really makes a big difference, so I suggest doing it. What I have here is I have some different grit, little sanding discs, ranging from about 320 to 1000 grit. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take a little bowl of water here, go ahead and wet them down this water. Then I have one of my claws here that is completely dry and cooled off. What I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with a 320 grit and just go ahead and start sanding this down. By sanding it down, what you'll do is you'll get rid of all the fingerprint marks or any imperfections that you didn't get out when you were molding them before. And basically what you want to do is you want to work your way progressively up through the grits till you get to a finer grit around 1000. Okay, here's one of the claws after it's been wet sanded. As you can see, it's a lot smoother, doesn't have as many fingerprint marks in it. But what we're going to do right now is we're going to move on to another optional step, and this is applying Mod Podge to the nails themselves. This gives them a shinier look to them, makes them look realistic. All you have to do is take some of it and simply go ahead and apply it on kind of thick. It looks white, but it will dry clear and make it look shinier. You may want to do multiple coats of this depending on how shiny you want them. I usually do about 2 or 3 for each nail. And you want to let it fully dry between each coat. It takes about 15 minutes for it to dry. Okay, what we have right here, we have one of the finished claws that's been wet sanded and had Mod Podge applied to it, so it's nice and shiny. So that's pretty much the finished product. And here is the finished product this is the glove for my fursuit. As you can see, look pretty realistic. But anyway, I'd like to thank you guys for watching.